what if the reason you struggle to speak a second language has absolutely nothing to do with your memory,
Right.
or your intelligence, or how many vocabulary words you've memorized? What if it has everything to do with the physical muscles in your jaw?
It's a completely wild thought, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
But when you really look at the mechanics of human speech, I mean, it's actually the undeniable truth. We treat language like it's this math test.
Oh, exactly, like a puzzle.
Yes, when you
Right.
should be treating it like a physical sport.
And that completely shifts how we need to approach learning.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are a language learner who is just entirely exhausted by like giant textbooks and grammar drills, or if you're just someone fascinated by how the human brain acquires new skills efficiently without that dreaded information overload.
Yeah, the burnout.
Exactly. Well, this deep dive is going to revolutionize your daily routine. Today, we are taking the daunting task of becoming fluent in English, or conceptually, really any language at all, and transforming it into a highly manageable 10-minute daily habit.
10 minutes. That's it.
Right. We are pulling this from an incredibly practical framework laid out by the YouTube channel EnglishSpeaking.way. And I got to say, it completely flips the script on how we acquire language.
It really does, because the ultimate goal of this entire framework isn't to make you a walking dictionary.
No.
The goal is to stop your brain from translating in its head. You want to reach a point where you start thinking in English automatically.
Right, because translating takes forever.
Exactly. Because right now, if you are constantly translating a thought from your native language into English and then, translating the response back again,
Oh, man.
you are creating this massive cognitive bottleneck.
It's exhausting. You can literally feel your brain overheating when you do that.
Yeah, it uses up all your working memory. So this 10-minute framework is specifically designed to bypass that bottleneck entirely, making the language feel natural and making the act of speaking completely automatic.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
How exactly do we make that shift from just, knowing grammar rules on a piece of paper to physically doing the language automatically?
Right.
Because before we even get into the specific 5 steps of this 10-minute routine, we really need to look at why such a short time frame actually works. I mean, 10 minutes sounds almost too good to be true.
It does, yeah. It sounds like a gimmick at first glance.
Totally.
But the math and, more importantly, the neuroscience behind it is surprisingly compelling.
Okay.
10 minutes a day might feel tiny in the moment, but over the course of a single month, that adds up to 300 minutes.
Wow.
That is 5 solid hours of real, highly focused practice.
And 5 hours doesn't sound like a lot if you spread it out. But the daily frequency is the magic ingredient here, isn't it?
That is the crucial mechanism. By having this daily contact, you are constantly keeping your brain in what the framework calls English mode.
English mode. Okay.
Because you see, when you learn something new, your brain builds a neural pathway. But if you only practice once a week, say in a 3-hour Sunday class,
Right.
that pathway starts to degrade by Tuesday. Your brain literally prunes it away because it thinks, well, we aren't using this daily, so it must not be important for our survival.
Oh, that makes so much sense. It's like, imagine trying to take care of a houseplant.
Okay, yeah.
If you give a plant a little water every day, it thrives.
Right.
But if you leave it completely dry for a week and then just dump a whole bucket of water on it on Sunday,
It's going to drown.
exactly, it's going to drown. Your brain just can't absorb it all at once.
It's fascinating here is that the human brain behaves in exactly the same way when it comes to speech. Consistency is the primary engine that builds what we call myelin.
Myelin.
Yeah, myelin is this fatty sheath that wraps around your neural pathways when you repeat an action.
Like insulation on a wire.
Exactly like insulation. The more you repeat the action, the thicker the myelin gets and the faster the electrical signal travels.
Oh, wow.
That's what muscle memory actually is. Our brains require that small, regular contact to thicken those sheaths.
So it needs that daily drop of water.
Yes. It's the daily frequency that signals to your brain, hey, this information is vital to our daily function. Keep this accessible. That consistent, small contact completely bypasses the need for expensive courses because you are just, utilizing your brain's natural adaptation process.
So it's not a software problem, it's a hardware problem.
Beautifully said. Yeah.
We are literally rewiring the physical brain.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we understand the neuroscience of why a mere 10 minutes is enough time to trigger this neuroplasticity, let's transition to how you actually spend the time.
Right. The actual steps.
Let's look at the first 4 minutes of this routine. Step 1 is listening, and it takes exactly 2 minutes.
Right, and the parameters for step 1 are incredibly specific. You need to find simple audio, so like a podcast clip, a YouTube video, a short dialogue.
Okay.
But the key metric here is that you must be able to understand at least 80% of it right off the bat.
Wait, 80%? Why so high? Shouldn't we be challenging ourselves with really difficult material to learn faster?
That is a very, very common misconception. If you listen to something where you only understand 50% of the words, your cognitive load is maxed out. You are struggling so hard to decode the meaning that you miss the actual mechanics of the language.
You're just in survival mode.
Exactly. Now, on the other hand, if you understand 100%, you get bored. 80% is the sweet spot. It's often called comprehensible input.
Right.
It allows your brain to guess the missing 20% from context without panicking.
And there is a massive rule for these 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You are strictly forbidden from translating in your head.
Yes, absolutely no translating.
You don't worry if you miss a word. Instead, you focus entirely on the rhythm, the tone, and the way the words connect to one another. You are essentially just training your ear to hear the music of the language.
Precisely. And that flows directly into step 2, which is speaking out loud for another 2 minutes.
Just 2 minutes.
Just 2. You take a few of the phrases you just listened to and you say them out loud, and you don't just read them like a robot. You copy the exact pronunciation, the speed, and the melody of the speaker.
Because, go back to what we said earlier, speaking is a physical skill.
Mm-hmm.
Your mouth literally has to learn the physical movements.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the facial postures required to speak English are entirely different from the facial postures required to speak Spanish or Mandarin or Arabic.
It is pure muscle memory. The muscles in your jaw, your tongue, your lips, they have spent your entire life forming the sounds of your native language.
Yeah, they're set in their ways.
Very much so. You have to physically train them to form new shapes. If you don't move your mouth, you aren't actually practicing fluency.
Okay, I totally get the physical aspect. But I have to push back on something here.
Okay, go for it.
The framework includes this pro tip for step 1. It heavily suggests listening to the exact same short audio clip every single day for 1 entire week.
Yes, it does.
Now, I have to be honest. Wait, doesn't listening to the exact same audio for 7 days straight get incredibly boring for the learner? I mean, doesn't the brain just tune it out completely?
It's a very valid question, and honestly, it's the exact point where a lot of learners rebel against the process.
I would.
But the logic here is exceptionally sound when you look at how cognitive load works. Fluency grows from deep repetition, not from consuming a constant stream of novel material.
Interesting.
If you listen to a brand new video every single day, your brain is always in a state of stress, always trying to acquire new vocabulary and decode new meaning. You are always playing catch-up.
Oh, I see. So you're saying that the familiarity is actually a tool.
Exactly. By using the exact same audio for 7 days, you remove the cognitive load of trying to understand what is being said. By day 3 or 4, you know exactly what the words mean.
Right, there's no mystery anymore.
Your brain isn't translating anymore. And because that mental bandwidth is suddenly freed up, your brain can finally focus 100% of its energy on the physical execution.
The muscles.
Yes. That's when you really start to hear the subtle melody and the rhythm. You can't build physical confidence if the target keeps moving every single day.
Wow. So you were intentionally making the content boring so the brain shifts its focus to the physical muscles.
There's one way to look at it, yeah.
That is such a crucial distinction. Okay, so we've established how to physically mimic the language to get the mouth moving correctly. But mimicry only gets you so far.
Right.
How do we bridge the gap from just repeating a script like a parrot to having active, spontaneous thoughts? Because repeating an audio clip is one thing, but sitting at a dinner party having a real conversation is a totally different sport. This brings us to steps 3, 4, and 5, where the routine forces your brain to actually take ownership of the sounds.
This is the critical bridge. Step 3 is called personalize, and it takes 2 minutes. You take the phrases you just learned and practiced, and you alter them to fit your own actual life.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the efficiency of step 3 is just brilliant.
Yeah.
Let's say the audio you've been listening to is someone talking about booking a flight. But you work from home and you haven't been on an airplane in like 5 years.
Right.
If you just repeat the phrase about the flight, your brain secretly knows it's useless information.
It doesn't care.
Exactly. But if you spend those 2 minutes changing the vocabulary to fit your reality, for example, changing it to, I need to book a Zoom meeting for tomorrow morning, you instantly completely change the game.
You do, because you are engaging the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain. By simply swapping out a few words to make the sentence factually true for your own life, your brain suddenly stops treating the English phrase as some abstract academic puzzle.
It makes it real.
It suddenly realizes, wait, this is a fact about my actual job. I need this information. It starts treating the language as a vital, personal tool for self-expression.
It's basically hacking your brain's relevance filter.
Precisely. And that act of personalization prepares you perfectly for step 4, which is free speaking, for another 2 minutes.
2 minutes of just talking.
Yep. This is where you talk continuously without reading, without copying, and without a script. You describe your day, your room, your plans for the weekend. And the golden rule here is that speed doesn't matter at all. What matters is flow.
I have to admit, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of the listener right now, step 4 sounds terrifying.
It really does for a lot of people.
Even if I'm just alone in my kitchen. The idea of free speaking without a script for 2 straight minutes brings up a lot of anxiety. What if I freeze? What if there are massive awkward pauses where I literally can't think of the word?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that anxiety is exactly why this step is so mandatory.
Really?
Step 4 essentially forces your brain to do 2 incredibly difficult things simultaneously. Think of an original concept and translate that concept into physical speech in real time.
Ooh.
When you freeze, or when you have those long, agonizing pauses, that is actually the sound of your brain building new neural pathways.
Wow.
Even if it feels painfully slow at first, this daily forced output is what ultimately builds the flow we talked about. You are training your internal editor to turn off. You're strengthening the connection between the spontaneous thought and the physical action of the jaw.
So the freezing isn't failing. The freezing is the brain lifting a heavy weight. I love that. Just keep the words coming, however slowly. And then finally, step 5 brings the whole 10-minute cycle to a close. Step 5 is reflect. 2 minutes.
Right.
You mentally review the practice session you just finished. What felt easy? What felt difficult? What mistakes did you catch yourself making? And the most fascinating rule here, absolutely no writing required.
None at all. It's entirely mental.
Why is that?
Well, there's a deep psychological reason for that.
Oh.
If you pull out a notebook and start writing down your mistakes, you instantly shift your brain back into visual, academic textbook mode.
Oh, you kill the momentum.
You lose the physical momentum entirely. This mental reflection acts as a crucial organization phase. You are helping your brain categorize the experience. By mentally flagging the difficult parts, you are actually priming your subconscious to work on them later, particularly during REM sleep.
While you sleep. That's incredible.
Yeah, it prepares your cognitive pathways for the next day's practice, neatly closing the loop on the 10-minute cycle.
It's such an elegant system. I mean, 2 minutes of listening, 2 of mimicking, 2 of personalizing, 2 of free speaking, and 2 of reflecting. 10 minutes total.
Very doable.
You can do that while your coffee is brewing. But
Yeah.
Let's be real for a second.
Sure.
If these 5 steps are so incredibly simple, and they honestly take less time than it takes to boil a pot of pasta, why isn't everyone walking around completely fluent in 3 languages? What is stopping us?
Well, human nature, mostly.
Fair enough.
The mechanics are simple, but the execution requires discipline. The framework identifies 3 massive roadblocks, or saboteurs, that derail almost every learner at some point. Mistake number 1 is simply skipping days, which leads directly to losing your momentum.
And as we talked about with the mile and cheese, when you skip days, that physical pathway starts to literally degrade.
Exactly. The English mode in your brain powers down. But the solution offered here is incredibly pragmatic. If you are swamped, if you're having a terrible day, just do 5 minutes.
Just cut it in half.
Cut all the times in half. Doing something, anything, is infinitely better for your neuroplasticity than doing nothing and breaking the chain.
Because the habit is the goal, not hitting a strict time quota.
Precisely. Then we have mistake number 2, which is wanting perfection. It's the mindset of waiting to speak out loud until you feel you are ready, or until you are absolutely certain your grammar is flawless.
Oh, so many people do this.
It's so common. And the brutal truth is, if you wait until you are perfect, you will never, ever open your mouth. The solution here requires a profound mindset shift. You have to focus on progress because fluency is messy.
Oh, I absolutely love that phrase. Fluency is messy. It gives you permission to be human.
Exactly.
And the third saboteur ties right into that, practicing without emotion. If your practice is boring, your brain simply will not care to remember it.
Right.
The solution is to talk about your own hobbies, your dreams, your specific goals, make the language wildly personal to you.
Yeah.
But I want to really highlight this because it challenges everything we know about school. So according to this source, a messy, mistake-filled 5 minutes where you're passionately rambling in broken English about your favorite weekend hobby.
Yeah.
That is actually scientifically superior to a perfectly executed 30-minute grammar drill from a textbook.
This raises an important question about how we fundamentally view education. Our traditional educational models are almost entirely built to prioritize correctness over connection.
Right, the grading system.
We are taught from a very young age to fear the red pen. We are taught that a mistake is a failure, something to be ashamed of. But a traditional classroom is actually a deeply hostile environment for learning a physical skill.
Because you can't learn to ride a bike without scraping your knee.
Exactly, you have to fall off. This framework completely flips the academic model on its head. When you attach genuine emotion to your practice, when you are talking out loud about a hobby you genuinely love, even if you are using entirely the wrong verb tense, you trick your brain into retaining the language. Well, the amygdala lights up and tells the hippocampus, oh, we're talking about our favorite hobby right now. This information must be highly valuable to our happiness. Let's store these words in long-term memory.
Wow.
But the sterile grammar drills, while structurally perfect, carry zero emotional weight. So the brain just discards the information the moment the test is over. So yes, the messy, passionate 5 minutes will build actual usable fluency far faster than the 30-minute drill.
Because the brain prioritizes meaning and survival over mechanical perfection.
Yes.
That is incredibly freeing. It takes all the pressure off. You are allowed to be messy as long as you are consistent. So let's bring this all together for the listener. Let's look at the timeline that is promised if you actually commit to this messy 10-minute daily habit.
Let's do it.
The framework states that if you stick to this for just 1 week, you will personally feel the difference. You'll feel the physical muscles in your mouth adapting and the cognitive load lightening. If you keep it up for 1 month, those 300 minutes of practice will compound and other people will actually start to notice the difference in your confidence. And if you do this for 6 solid months, your fluency will absolutely explode.
Because by month 6, you've accumulated hours and hours of active, physical, personalized speaking practice. You haven't just memorized rules. You have literally rewired the hardware of your brain and the muscles of your face.
So what does this all mean?
Yep.
It means that language is not a monument built inside a sterile classroom. It is built in those small, seemingly insignificant daily moments. It's built in your kitchen while you're waiting for your toast. It's built on the bus during your morning commute.
Absolutely.
It's built while you're taking the dog for a walk. You do not need the giant textbook. You do not need the expensive tutor. You already have the mouth, you have the brain, and you definitely have the 10 minutes. You have everything you need to start today.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into the mechanics of daily practice, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've spent this entire time talking about learning a foreign language, but if just 10 minutes of targeted, emotional, and physical daily repetition can entirely bypass the overthinking, translating part of your brain to help you master a completely new language, could this exact same 5-step framework be the secret to finally overcoming anxiety and becoming a highly confident public speaker in your native tongue?